A very good Friday evening, and thanks for clicking on to Vogan's European Outlook. The month of October, warmer than normal across the eastern half of the European continent. We're seeing warmer than normal in September here, and even for the month of November so far, albeit early days, we've got incredible warmth across Scandinavia and across Eastern Europe here. So several months in a row now we've seen very, very warm compared to normal across eastern parts of Europe. We've seen somewhat of a flip around across the western half of the continent where we've had cooler than normal, specifically across Ireland, France and the northern portion of Iberia into the Alpine region here. But certainly the eastern half of Europe has just been endless summer across this part of the world. And of course, not only are we talking about heat, we're also talking about record-breaking wetness across October, across the British Isles here, anywhere from Inverness through Murray, Aberdeenshire, into the northeast of England, into the southern half of the British Isles in particular. Very interesting here. I believe Oxford had the wettest October on record, and some of the records in this particular location date back 145 years, so very significant in terms of rainfall here. And even across Greater London, we've seen in excess of 200% of normal precipitation for the Greater London area. So that's the wettest October in some 20 years in this part of the country. It's unusual to see this region of the British Isles having somewhat of the wettest conditions across the country generally. Also, what's interesting is we've had several mornings in a row now here where we've had temperatures below freezing across the southern half of the British Isles, warmer than normal across northern parts, even though it was a bit cooler across the northern half of Scotland today. And starting off the day, we've seen temperatures of 16.6 at Dice in Aberdeen during the course of yesterday. Yesterday morning was even at 9:30 in the morning. We've seen temperatures of 14 degrees, while we've seen parts of south central England at -4. Skip back to the early part of November, and we had temperatures close to record breaking levels. In fact, I was down at Heathrow Airport back on the morning of the 2nd of November, and the temperature at 10 to 1 in the morning was sitting at 18 degrees according to the dash temperature. But Dan Hawley, based in Norwich, says temperatures reached 18.3 at Cromer overnight, highest November temperatures at that site since 1946. So that's dating back a lot of years. 18.1 at Weybourne, the warmest November temperature since records began here in 1986. Cavendish and Santon-Downham recorded the warmest November temperature since 1996. So a big contrast, a big flip between the last 3 mornings below freezing and, of course, the very, very sultry conditions that were seen back in the night between the 1st and the 2nd of November across the very same area. What is the biggest story, really, is the fact that we're going from the 5th wettest October since the 1800s across the British Isles to a drier than normal November across the British Isles here overall. And by the way, a lot of the reason why we had such a wet October was a lot of that was down to the tropical influence. We've seen several tropical or subtropical remnants coming up into the British Isles and bringing such heavy rainfall. Of course, back on the 5th of October, we've seen, according to the Met Office, UK-wide, we had the wettest day on record for the British Isles, with I believe it was an average of 31 millimetres spread out across the country here. So that certainly helped. But Storm Alex, Hurricane Zeta, Epsilon, all contributed to unusual wetness and distribution of precipitation during the course of October. But high pressure is going to rule much of Europe as we go through the month of November, and as a result we're going to see drier than normal conditions. Upcoming 7 days, this is CFSV2 precipitation anomaly And the upcoming 7 days, this is between the 6th and 13th of November, considerably drier than normal across Europe, including the British Isles. You can see here in the week 2, which takes us through 13th to the 20th, again drier than normal. And as we go into the third week, which takes us out towards the 20th and the 27th of November, once again, notice here a wee bit of an ease back in the dryness across Eastern Europe, but across the British Isles, across Ireland, we still maintain a drier than normal theme across this part of the world here. So that is interesting to see. And even by week 4, which takes us into the month of December, still below normal across the British Isles and the UK, which is somewhat of a concern in terms of weather further down the road. But so big contrast, very wet October, likely to be potentially one of the driest Novembers on record across the British Isles if the CFS has anything in the correct way. That's it for today. Hope you have a great day, and I'll be back in the next few days with more. Bye for now.